What is up, TFA fam? Welcome into the early look at Week 5 waivers. It is a pretty thin week. It is a week, one might say, but that means we didn't have anything crazy happen, so that's always good. Gonna be a quick show for you guys tonight. It's a week to save your fab, save your waiver priority. Kevin's back. He's done coaching the baseball. Raylan already rocking with us. Appreciate all you guys. So, Kev, let's just go ahead and dive into this, and then get back to the revenge game of all revenge games.
Sounds like a plan. Let's start right on it. Let's just jump right into the quarterbacks for this week. There's actually some decent options this week. It's some pretty good matchups for Week 5. But you got Sam Darnold. Nobody wants to play Sam Darnold apparently. Only rostered in 37% of leagues. All the guy that keeps balling every single week. Completed 26 of 39 for 301 yards and 2 touchdowns today. And the dude is just out here rushing just continues to put up rushing touchdowns 6 times for 35 yards and 2 more rushing touchdowns today. I think he has 6 rushing touchdowns on the season. And so for leagues that play, that are 4-point passing touchdowns with 6-point rushing touchdowns. That is coming up huge right now for Sam Darnold. And he's currently averaging 24.4 fantasy points per game. He gets Philly this week. It's not a great matchup, but it's not a terrible matchup either with the weapons that they have. So Sam Darnold continues to be atop this. He feels like the Logan Thomas of last year, where he's literally on this list every single week, and he's literally never rostered because nobody wants to play him. And he just keeps balling out every week. Next up on the list is Trey Lance. As we know, Jimmy Garoppolo did leave today with an injury. He is rostered in 37, or Trey Lance is rostered in 30% of leagues. I will say it's not a great matchup against Arizona this week. Arizona has been really good so far this season, but Trey Lance completed 9 of 18 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. He had that wide open Deebo Samuel touchdown that I was tilting my face off because I had a lot of Brandon Ayuk at DFS. So that was awesome. But regardless of that, he also rushed 7 times for 41 yards. And that right there is exactly what makes what you should be excited about with Trey Lance is that rushing upside he has. This is a tough matchup. Like I said, the Cardinals are ranked 3rd in pass DVOA and allow the 8th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. However, like I said, his rushing upside makes him, I think, kind of an intriguing QB2 next week. And I think he's a better long-term option as well, because if he shows better than if Jimmy Garoppolo is out next week, then I think Trey Lance is definitely a long-term guy. And I think somebody with all the weapons that they have with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, I think he could be somebody that we're talking about as a weekly QB1 moving forward, especially because of his rushing upside that he has. Daniel Jones. The Daniel Jones tour continues next week. He is only rostered in 31% of Yahoo leagues, and they get Dallas next week. He completed this week 28 of 40 for 402 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He also continues to carry the ball at a high rate, 4 times for 27 yards. He's averaging 24 fantasy points per game right now, and he faces a Dallas defense that I think is pretty average in terms of pass defense, 14th in pass DVOA, and they allow the 12th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So Daniel Jones continues to be out here slinging the rock every single week, and with his rushing upside as well, he kind of gives him a little bit of a safe floor. And then you have Trevor Lawrence, who really looked probably the best he's looked all year in that Thursday night game against the Bengals, completed 17 of 24 for 204. He also carried the ball 8 times for 36 yards and a touchdown. Listen, they get to face the Titans next week, who are absolutely horrendous. They ranked 22nd in pass DVOA and allowed the 10th most fantasy points to the position. Zach Wilson got brought back to life today, knocking off the Titans on the road. Now, obviously, the Titans were missing A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, but regardless, that defense is absolutely booty. And then I put Matt Ryan on here. He's rostered for 53% of leagues. I know he hasn't been great, but today he did pass for 283 and 4 against the Washington football team. But I'm going to say this. The Jets defense has not been terrible this year. That's not been the problem, why their record is what it is. But they're 18th in pass DVOA, but they allow the 3rd fewest points to quarterbacks. I don't think this is a great matchup for Matt Ryan, but I don't hate it either against the Jets. So they have the weapons to be a much better passing offense. So I think that's kind of the list for me right now. I think this is kind of the best matchups you can look at for a quarterback position.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have our streamer videos this week as well. Maybe have a couple more options after we dig a little deeper into this. But I'm going to go ahead and roll right into the running back waiver ads for this week. My top guy this week is going to be Kenny Gainwell. He's someone who's been on this list, I think, every week this year. But right out of the gate, you could tell that Philly was really looking to get him involved in this game plan today against the Chiefs. Had 29 snaps today. That is the highest he's played all year. Had 11 opportunities. He turned into 89 total yards. He was second in targets, tied with Zach Ertz, only behind Devonta Smith with 8. And then outside of week 3, he's had at least 9 opportunities each week. So this isn't, obviously today is, the best production he's had. I'm not overreacting to this, I don't think, because he does have some flex value because of, getting close to at least double digit opportunities, having, like I said, 9 in 3 of the 4 games this week. So in your deeper leagues, has it does have some flex appeal. And 10 team leagues, you're probably not doing it, but 12 teams, if you have like a second flex spot, and especially 14 team leagues, has definitely has that flex value. He's rostered in less than 30% of leagues on Yahoo and ESPN. Obviously, the one injury that we kind of got today seems like, as of right now, he has escaped a serious knee injury. That's obviously David Montgomery for the Bears. Damian Williams, again, I've had him on the list already this year as a stash. If Monty were to miss multiple weeks, I think, especially people, that had Christian McCaffrey could potentially look to pick up Damian Williams to have him kind of carry them over the next couple of weeks until McCaffrey comes back, potentially this week. But either way, we're always starved for some running back production, and Damian Williams is definitely going to be the guy for as long as David Montgomery is out. He has been getting some opportunity even while Monty was healthy. So the important thing here, depending on how much fab you're going to drop, or if you're going to use, your top waiver priority for the week, make sure you're paying attention to the injury reports that's going to be coming out between now and Wednesday. Like I said, as of right now, it looks like it's just a hyperextended knee. It doesn't seem like it's going to be anything serious, anything long term, but definitely make sure you're keeping an eye on that. Latavius Murray is, I put him under must add, but like he should be like if I had a tier between must add and secondary ads, that's where like Latavius Murray will be sliding in. But he saw 18 carries today. Tyson Williams, apparently in the doghouse, he was a healthy scratch. They wanted to get a look at Lev Bell. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but Latavius Murray has been the one constant for the Ravens rushing attack this year. And this year, yeah. Ended up playing 30 snaps today. Lev Bell got 16. Devonta Freeman got 6. He is kind of on the edge as far as what we look for in terms of our waivers. In Yahoo leagues, he is nearly 50% rostered. ESPN is only 34% though. So you can definitely look to add him, especially if you're in ESPN leagues. I don't know if we're going to necessarily be able to, quote unquote, count on any of these Ravens running backs. Like I said, it just doesn't make any sense to me why they feel the need to get Devonta Freeman and Lev Bell involved. I think they're perfectly fine with Latavius Murray and Tyson Williams, but again, looks like Tyson is in the doghouse, and Latavius Murray looks like to be the consistent ad here. Then just moving on to some secondary ads for the week, looking at guys like J.D. McKissic, Alex Collins, David Johnson. With Alex Collins, this one's interesting. We kind of already know what J.D. McKissic is, right? Full PPR is where he's going to have the most value. After only playing 20 snaps in week 1, we thought we were getting the full-on Antonio Gibson experience, and that has not been the case. McKissick snaps have gone up to 31, 25, and then 27 snaps today. He's had double-digit opportunities in 2 of the last 3 weeks and has found the end zone in 2 of those weeks as well. He's not someone I'm breaking the bank for, but like I said, full PPR leagues, I think he could be an okay flex option. In your deeper leagues, 10 team and lower, again, probably not going out of my way to grab him, but 12 team leagues and up, you can look to grab him. Going back to Alex Collins really quick, was not active week 1, but his snaps and touches have increased in the past 3 games. ended up with 22 snaps today, and Chris Carson saw only 25, which I thought was pretty interesting. He also outproduced Carson, put up 78 total yards on 12 opportunities. Carson getting 31 yards on 14 opportunities. Now, I don't see Collins outright taking this job away from Carson, but this would be like such a peak Pete Carroll thing to do is to start giving, a split backfield or, a 1A to a 1B role with Alex Collins. So he's definitely worth a speculative pickup if things are going to continue this week. I don't see why this would have been a one-off thing for Seattle, but I'm not going to be dropping a bunch of fab on him. Again, not burning if you have like a priority waiver system, not going to be burning my priority ad on him. But he is somebody to pick up and just stash, I guess, especially if anything happens with Chris Carson, who, has been banged up over the past couple of years. Looks like Collins is going to be the guy to step into a bigger role with Rashad Penny hitting IR. And then David Johnson, I'm kind of just throwing in here because obviously Houston is absolute doo-doo butter trash. He's obviously the pass catching back here. Saw a couple more carries today with Mark Ingram only seeing 6. So he's someone you can add if you're desperate, but I'm not going out of my way to get him. And then some stashes out here. Jeremy McNichols not overreacting to his 12 targets today. Obviously, with the Titans having nothing at wide receiver, McNichols stepped into a bigger role. And then Malcolm Brown, I have no idea what the Dolphins are doing with their backfield. Apologies to anyone who was on the Sunday live show today and heard me recommend starting Myles Gaskin. If it makes you feel any better, I also had Myles Gaskin in my FanDuel 50-50 lineup as well. So I went down with the ship. I didn't leave you guys floating out there solo. I went down on that Titanic-sized miss for me today.
Yeah, I mean that's that's what happens with these ambiguous backfields, right? I don't understand what they're doing either. With him, he's definitely the pass catching running back there. What can you do about that? But anyways, I will also mention that David Williams, Matt Nagy said after the game that David Williams is also dealing with a quad injury. So we might be looking at a Khalil Herbert. I don't know. Well, it's something we're going to have to monitor to kind of see how this thing shakes out, because as of right now, what it looks like for Montgomery is hyperextended knee, but obviously it could end up being an MCL, which probably would put him out 3 to 4 weeks. And then Damian Williams did suffer a quad injury, but I don't know how there's been no word about severity on that. This is what Matt Nagy said after the game. And so that's something we're going to have to monitor, because I think Damian Williams obviously is probably the priority, but Khalil Herbert is somebody that I would keep my eyes on at running back. Let's just move over to wide receiver. There's not I think that the main one that stood out to me today is Darnell Mooney. He's only rostered in 38% of leagues. Halted 5 receptions on 7 targets, 125 yards and a touchdown. Good for 18.5 PPR points. I knew it was coming. The guy has continued to receive a ton of targets. He's received at least 7 or more targets in 3 of the 4 games this season. And today he received an absurd 41% target share. I guess Allen Robinson finally started getting going as well, but this offense definitely looked much better today than what it has in previous weeks. They didn't have to do a whole lot because they were playing the Lions, so they were able to lead on the run. But if you look at their next 4 games at Las Vegas, Green Bay, at Tampa Bay, and San Francisco, there's a lot of really good matchups there, especially with Green Bay, all the injuries they suffered today to their secondary. Tampa Bay secondary is terrible. San Francisco secondary is terrible. So there's some really good matchups here to exploit coming up for this team as well. So Darnell Mooney, only rostered in 38% of leagues. I think that he is – I think, honestly, depending on what we hear about Chicago, that this backfield, if Chicago or if David Montgomery is only going to be out for a week or 2, I think you can make a case that Darnell Mooney is the top waiver ad this week, just because of his opportunity. He's the number 2. He plays 100% of the snaps, and he just continues to see a lot of targets. So I like Darnell Mooney a lot. I was surprised he's only rostered in 38% of leagues, but I guess it makes some sense. He has struggled. So Darnell Mooney it should definitely be on people's radars. And then AJ Green – I don't know. I didn't know if I should have him here or not, or maybe he deserves on the next list. but only rostered in 24% of leagues. 5 receptions on 6 targets, 67 yards and a touchdown today, 17.7 PPR points. But so far on the year, he has an 18% target share, 18.1 yards per reception, is 14th the best among all wide receivers. And he scored double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight weeks, and he's connected to an elite offense. So while I don't think there's a huge ceiling here, like I think he's a viable wide receiver 3, 4-ish, I think, on most weeks because he's connected to Kyler Murray and in this offense. And so, we're getting into bye weeks, and so he's going to start looking like a guy you're probably going to want to play in your flex on some weeks. So depending on matchup. So I don't hate AJ Green. I don't think he has an incredibly high ceiling, but I mean, he appears to be their deep threat in this offense and continues to get opportunities. So, I think you can add AJ Green if you wish. Moving on to the 12, the secondary list here, Rashad Bateman was returned to practice this past week. They have 2 weeks to activate him. He's still only rostered 25% of Yahoo leagues, so I think he's a definite add right now. I know this isn't a pass first offense, but I think he could step right in and be the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. But we'll see how things shake out here. But Rashad Bateman is definitely more of a speculative ad, somebody that I want exposure to. Randall Cobb, only rostered in 13% of leagues, hauled in 5 receptions on 6 targets for 2 touchdowns today. He led all receivers in receiving yards and touchdowns. And I think he's probably going to see an expanded role now that MVS is on IR. So any wide receiver you can get that is tied to Aaron Rodgers, I'm about that life. And so I like Randall Cobb as more of just a flex option in 12-team leagues and above. Curtis Samuel returned today, first game back of the year, rostered in 40% of leagues. He was only targeted 4 times for 19 yards. I think he's going to be hard to trust next week, but we did see Diami Brown and Logan Thomas get hurt today. So, I mean, the targets could definitely be there for Curtis Samuel. So, I think he's at least worth an add in 12-team leagues. Devontae Parker, only rostered in 38% of leagues. I figured that would be higher. 4 receptions on 9 targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. He currently has a 21% target share on this offense. Obviously, the offense is not great, but he's seen at least 7 targets in every game this season. I think he makes for a decent wide receiver 4 next week against a Bucs defense that allows the most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. Jamison Crowder came back today. He's rostered in 20% of leagues, made a season debut, 7 receptions on 9 targets for 61 yards and a touchdown. And then the Jets take on a Falcons defense that allows the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So Jamison Crowder, plays primarily in the slot. He's got to see a lot of targets. I don't mind adding Jamison Crowder. Quintez Cephas caught 4 of 5 for 83. He's averaging 20.8 yards per reception, 17th among all wide receivers in deep targets, But I think he's going to be hard to trust, but he has scored double-digit fantasy points in 3 of the 4 games this year. But I think, he might be a guy we can look at, once we get into waiver wire, once we get into bye weeks that is, only one more week away. Maybe somebody that you could look at as a wide receiver 4 or 5, depending on how many flex options you have. But he's going to be hard to trust because they're relying more on guys like Khalif Raymond. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown get involved.
Yeah.
He seems to be more of the deep threat variety. But so the next up is Van Jefferson. He was on the deep stash. I have moved him up to the 12 team because he continues to be involved in this offense. He's only rostered in 5% of leagues, 5 receptions for 6 targets for 90 yards and a touchdown. He has scored 2 touchdowns, or he has scored a touchdown in each 2 of his last 3 games. He's really starting to emerge as a really viable wide receiver 3 in this offense. And while that offense did not look fantastic today against Arizona at home, I think more weeks than not, this offense is going to be clicking on all cylinders. And I like Van Jefferson, second-year wide receiver tied to Matt Stafford, this offense. So he's only rostered in 5% of leagues. So other than that, I think some deep guys, like I said, Khalif Raymond, he's scored double-digit fantasy points in each of the last 2 weeks, but man, I don't trust him whatsoever. Quez Watkins, Kadarius Toney, with all the injuries they have there for the Giants, he did score, I think it was 13 fantasy points today. Don't really mind him, but I don't really know how much you're going to trust him with all the other weapons they have. But they do have a lot of injuries right now. So Josh Palmer, Josh Reynolds, Byron Pringle, I think you have to be in like a 16-team league for those guys to be on your radar. So that pretty much does it for me for wide receivers.
Yeah, as far as tight end ads for waivers, the only guy that I'm really looking at is Dalton Schultz. We'll have some more information for you guys on the streaming video, but Schultz is someone, it's a little bit annoying with Jarwin still involved, but Dalton Schultz has seen at least 6 targets in 3-4 games this year, and I think he's had at least 6 catches for 45 yards in every game this year as well. So as far as waiver adds, I think Schultz is the only tight end really worth mentioning, but we will have a couple more streaming options for you.
The disrespect of Dawson Knox. The disrespect. I want him over Dalton Schultz. And he's only rostered 47% of leagues. Oh, the disrespect of Dawson Knox. He scored 14.9 last week on 5 targets, 4 for 49 and 1. This week he goes 5 for 8 for 2 touchdowns. I want the tight end tied to Josh Allen. I think he's had a little bit of a late breakout. And when we're talking about tight ends, we're talking about a really barren landscape of players. If you could give me this 2 weeks in a row, I'm about that life. Not to mention the fact that their upcoming schedule is at KC, at Tennessee. They do go and bye. Then they get Miami, at Jacksonville, at the Jets. Like, it is shaping up to be just tremendous, tremendous upside for this dude. So Dawson Knox definitely deserves to be on the list as well.
I just think he's someone who is going to sit around like Sam Darnold is, right? Like, I'm just not ready to fully buy in to Dawson Knox just yet. This hasn't been a position that Josh Allen has targeted very much over the past couple of years. Manny Sanders now involved. Cole Beasley still involved. We haven't had the massive Stephon Diggs game just yet. I do think Dawson Knox will absolutely be in the waiver. I mean, in the streaming discussion, but I can't get there as an ad just yet. But it is absolutely barren. I think, give me Dawson Knox over Cole Kmet for sure. Guys like that. But as far as someone who I am like picking up with the intent of holding, Schultz would be my guy.
I think you could pick up Dawson Knox and start him. Like there's not very many tight ends. I mean, when we really talk about tight ends, you're talking about like what, 7 guys, maybe 6 guys that you just feel good about on a weekly basis, right? That you feel good about playing. Everybody else is like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm gonna play him. Maybe it's a little bit higher. Maybe it's like 8 or 9. But still, like, there's a wide range of tight ends that just go all over the place. And so, Mike Gesicki we could have talked about, but he's now rostered more. Because he had another good game again today. But I think those would be the 2.
Yeah, either way, there's not many. Dawson Knox would be on the short list. Real quick from Triple Trey, how do we feel about A-Rob?
They didn't have to throw the ball a lot today. So, I mean, I get it. He is going to see the majority of the coverage and the attention from defenses, which is going to open things up for Darnell Mooney. But I think good things are coming for Allen Robinson. I mean, he had himself probably his best game of the year, I think, I believe, or maybe it's tied with. I think he did have a touchdown, I think week 1 or whatever. But I think it's tough to trust him right now because he's not putting up a lot of points and he's not doing a whole lot. But I think better times are coming. Listen, Allen Robinson has been successful with every quarterback he's ever had, and he's had some really fucking bad ones. So I'm holding Allen Robinson. I think, or I'm even looking out to go out and buy him if you can.
Yeah, definitely a good buy low opportunity. I echo everything that Kev just said. Mr. Special Edition, we did mention Damian Williams, but the important thing to do is to make sure you are checking up on the injury report for David Montgomery. Looks like as of right now, early reports are optimistic. Looks like it's just going to be a hyperextended knee, not expected to miss a ton of time. Looks like he avoided a major knee injury, so don't go crazy with Damian Williams just yet. And Tommy wants to know what to do with Joe Mixon.
You hold him. I mean, he was having a good game before he got injured. And it sounds like, by all accounts, that it's not anything serious. They should be good to go for next week. So he's still getting 85% of the opportunities. And I think he would have had an even better day had he not got hurt right there at the end. So Joe Mixon has been fine. I mean, it's not the numbers necessarily we were necessarily looking for, but as long as he continues to get this sort of opportunity share, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, definitely somebody I'm not panicking on. And if that's somebody you're able to go out and buy on the cheap, he would be another guy I would look to go and do as well. If Monty is not out for week 5, would you trade Chubb for David Montgomery from our guy Brian? Boom. hold Calvin or trade. You're not going to be able to get the necessary trade value from him. So he's a hold. He's also somebody else you could go out and look to buy. You're not going to get. I don't even know what I would expect to get in return for Calvin Ridley right now. He hasn't had a Calvin Ridley type game because apparently Cordarrelle Patterson is a thing. So
Who would have thought that Cordell Patterson would be this? Because like every week it's kind of like, okay, I'm not gonna move him up. It's Cordell Patterson. I don't get a little game, cool, and he just continues to eat worlds. I mean, today he absolutely crushed, right? But I don't know. Like I will say this though, Cordell Patterson is the absolute quintessential sell high, sell as fast as you can on that guy because this is not going to sustain itself all year.
we appreciate you guys joining us. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are working our way to 3K. Hit us with a like as well. You can jump in the Discord. That is absolutely free. We will have rankings and streams out for you guys. The streams will come out Tuesday. Rankings will be coming out Wednesday. So make sure you are keeping things locked here and looking forward to more content coming. Hope you guys get those dubs this week on to week 5.